Do you think, when you talk about a revolutionary thing that's been going on and that this was a moment for it to go mainstream, do you think that this is actually Marxist in nature? I mean, in a kind of Gramscian way, because it would appear to be so, you know, like institutions having been hollowed out for decades.
It is in part. I don't think it should be seen as the sole explanation for it. I think there's a nascent movement. I think you could say that a completely reasonable, non-conspiratorial view of it would be that we had a period of empire in the post-colonial period is arguably, I mean, you could say we're still in it. I don't think we are by any means. That's way out of date. But you could say that we're still in it, and therefore we're trying to litigate the colonial era, and that slavery is being litigated because we didn't before. I mean, that would be like one very generous steel-manning interpretation of what has been happening. Of course, it ignores the fact that this country debated, got beyond this a long, long time ago now, that America fought a bloody civil war over slavery more, 2 centuries ago. I mean, it's wildly historically inaccurate and unfair to make that claim. But that could be a claim that some people would make, is we haven't really had the reckoning on that yet, and that's what we're doing. I think that's misguided, but I think some people do actually think that, mainly because they don't know about anything that happened before the day they were born. And not much after that. But anyway, the point is that, yes, there are certain signs, and I give some examples in the book, of the sort of other deep underlays of what is challenging us on this. I give the example, as you know, of the way in which every Western philosopher has now been pulled down, just as there's been an assault on our religious tradition in the West, the Judeo-Christian tradition, and an endless subservience to anything that's Islamic, for instance, as we've discussed before, and I've written about at length. Just as we've had that assault on the Judeo-Christian religion, so we've had an assault on our secular tradition in the West. And that's one way you can see that this is a totalistic war on everything that the West has produced. They war on the Western secular traditions and the Western religious traditions. Every Enlightenment philosopher has now been taken down, sometimes quite literally from their plinths, because they lived in an era in which colonialism was going on. They didn't write enough against racism, or they once said something that we now regard as racist. And I say in the book, great, let's apply this across the board. Let's apply it to one of the clearest philosophers who was racist, Karl Marx. And as you know, and I had such fun. Karl Marx's letters to Engels are filled with racist epithets. The N-word, endlessly used, often linked to the word Jew. He's profoundly racist against black people in his published writings as well as his private ones. David Hume, the great Scottish philosopher of the Enlightenment, is currently cancelled and has had his name prized off buildings in his native Scotland because of one footnote in one of his essays. Karl Marx remains completely easy to cite, and nobody cares that he was a racist by our modern standards. And the most that anyone can say about this is, well, he was a man of his time, to which one can say, who is it? And then, and I've had this in recent days, some of the Marxists say, well, we don't go to him for his personal failings, we go to him for his economic theory. Well, the same thing with David Hume. Yes, exactly. Same thing with Thomas Jefferson. We don't go to Thomas Jefferson for advice on how to get slaves. No. We look to Thomas Jefferson for a great example of human bravery and extraordinary brilliance, and helping to come up with the most successful society in history, the United States of America. So you see in moments like this, what, yes, you rightly say is a Marxist undercurrent. It's one of the undercurrents. I don't think it's the only one, but I'm so pleased you cite it, because it is absolutely evident in that example of what they don't want to critique.